Signs here in the Science Gallery is actually a 3-day event that's actually a celebration of women in science, engineering and technology, and it is part of a larger funded FP7 funded international project called TWiST, Towards Women in Science and Technology. We want to highlight the role that women have in science, engineering and technology, because often they're underrepresented in these areas. So this XX lab here in the Science Gallery actually gives them a platform to show their research.
Basically, I'm investigating why people's perceptions of engineering as a career, and wondering how we can change those to encourage more people, especially women, to study Department of Engineering in their career, for their career. So last year for my thesis I developed a transition year course for secondary schools where students were actually building robots themselves using the Lego Mindstorms kit. So I was presenting them with the problem and they had to develop a robot that would solve that problem. What we see going on here at the moment are 2 Bluetooth controlled robots. So basically I've got a simple app on both phones. One's an iPhone and one's an Android phone, and with that they're Bluetooth connected to the Lego Mindstorms brain, and they're able to control the movements of the robots.
So what we're doing is we're making a new type of solar cell known as dye-sensitized solar cells. And we're using raspberry juice and a special type of paint to make a solar cell that works in an analogous way to the way plants use sunlight to make chemical energy or food.
In the context of TWiST, we are looking at the difference between men and women. There's some suggestion that men and women do actually differ in terms of spatial ability, which is something that the Mozart effect claims to improve. It's based on the notion that listening to Mozart makes you smarter.
It's basically a game of relaxation. Whoever is more relaxed wins the game. And it measures alpha and theta waves, and these are particular types of brain activity. Basically what happens with binaural beats is you're introducing 2 different tones to each ear, but they differ by such a small amount that you wouldn't actually notice it. It's not a full note or even a semitone, and that will induce an overall alpha increase in the brain activity. And using that we can basically bias the results of Mindball, and it's actually really interesting because we've seen these results happen and it's very exciting. Men seem to be actually more relaxed than women a lot of the time, at least according to Mindball. So that's very interesting as well, that gender difference there.
I'm an eye surgeon, and I've been very involved in developing surgical training techniques, particularly for transfer of skills in Africa. The procedure behind me, for example, when I started 22 years ago, took an hour and a half to do. We can now do it in up to 3 minutes. And it eliminates blindness instantly. What we're looking at here is the cataract is white, and you're seeing the red reflex from behind the thick white lens coming through. You see the bits of red coming through? And what those instruments are doing, one of them is steering, we're rotating it in the eye, and the other one is simply a hoover. I specifically mapped out a few careers that would tick those boxes, give me intellectual stimulation, allow me to work with my hands in medicine, and allow me to solve a problem, and there were very few. And I particularly then added into the list, the database, not have to get up at night in case I had small children, to be able to have flexibility and to actually be in a position to take time off when my children were off school and everything. My children have now grown up, but the idea, it worked completely. So my whole career was designed around being a woman.
Part of the TWiSTing Science project, we had the XX Factor, where we had different women in research in science, engineering and technology from all over the country, actually talking about their passions and their areas that they work in, their inspiration. So they had to get up and speak for 5 minutes and let us know and convey to us their area of research and interest.
So evolution is a cruel master. If you're not good enough, you don't survive. And the best you can hope for is you're not quite good and you kind of get under the radar. Otherwise, you've got to be really worth it. Otherwise, it just doesn't happen.
Did you know that 4-year-olds ask 400 questions a day? Yeah. And I teach 20 and then I go home to 5.
So the first transistor was roughly the size of my hand. However, now, 63 years later, we can fit approximately 2.3 billion transistors into an area this size.
You know, we are here because of the TWiST project, and we're seeing if this kind of activity is going to work for the issues we are following in the project. I think basically the concept is very good, and the 5-minute speech is very interesting and good.
It was interesting. I was trying to think, okay, some of the talks were better than others. And I was trying to think, what was it? And partly I think it was people being able to articulate their enthusiasm and why, or whatever, as well as, but it wasn't just about themselves personally, it was about the science, and I thought that was really important.
Fascinating. It was a great mix of talks out there this evening. Each one equally inspiring in their own way. Very, very impressed by Jane McLaughlin's talk from Galway. If that teacher couldn't inspire you, nobody could.
I was just really fascinated with the ones about schools and the two teachers who'd won awards. I thought that was just amazing.
Yeah, it was great. Everyone, the speakers were all very, very interesting, all enthusiastic about the subject.
I think actually there's missing maybe a short break after each speaker where the crowd could ask some questions, and because this is important right after the presentation, I think.
I have to say also, the other thing that was so good about tonight was at my table, there were two people from Trinity College who were graduate students who had never been here before. And they were both in chemistry, both women, and one from Portugal and Nigeria and one from India, and they will come back because they were very excited about it. And what attracted them was that you had all these different topics being covered in little short bits that then they could go further with if they wanted to. So good work, Science Gallery, good work.